This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. We begin tonight with a story of grief and the tragedies addiction and trauma can bring. Those tragedies happen in every corner of Manitoba to families of all socioeconomic backgrounds. But in a remote community where resources and supports are few, drugs can take an especially heavy toll. As CBC's Stephanie Cram shows us, a Manitoba First Nation is calling for sweeping changes to keep its people safe from drugs. And a warning, sensitive viewers may find this story upsetting.
St. Teresa Point First Nation just buried two young girls who were found frozen outside earlier this month. One of those girls, Dana Shingoose, the other, her friend. The chief of that community believes the girls died because of drugs.
The premature and needless dying of our youth caused by drugs must stop, not in the future, but now.
The First Nation is a dry community, but Flett says drugs are being smuggled in by plane or on the winter road. Now the First Nation wants the power to search people's bags.
We want the provincial government to allow First Nations to physically search passenger luggage at airports serving the First Nation and especially St. Teresa Point.
The chief says in the past they would search all luggage and cargo coming into the community, but people complained, so they stopped. Calls for help is something that has become all too familiar for Grand Chief Kathy Merrick from the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs.
When are we going to quit calling for press conferences to be able to address these issues? These things need to be implemented immediately in our communities. And if people don't like their suitcases being searched going into First Nations communities, well, don't go there then.
Perimeter, the primary airline serving St. Teresa Point, says they are working with First Nations to improve security measures and will soon introduce body scanners and drug-sniffing dogs at the Winnipeg terminal.
We have been listening to the requests from the Chief and Council. I believe they acknowledge the help and assistance that we have provided, but we want to take it one step further.
Change can't come soon enough.
It's devastating to the community. It's devastating to the families. It's devastating to the grandfathers.
The province says they are committed to ensuring all First Nations are safe, but say the random search of luggage is a threat to the privacy of passengers and infringes on their constitutional rights.
And Stephanie Cram joins us in the studio now. Steph, I know you spoke with the grandfather of one of the girls, Dana Shingoose. How is he doing?
Yeah, I spoke to Albert Shingoose. He says that their family is still coping. They're taking it day by day. They're getting better slowly, but they're still grieving. Albert says he agrees with everything that the chief says today, and he says that the drug crisis in the community has to be stopped.
Now, of course, St. Teresa Point isn't the only community struggling and asking for help. We've heard more cries for help recently. Tell us about those.
Earlier this week, the Keewatin Tribal Council, which includes 11 First Nations in northern Manitoba, they declared a regional state of emergency. Some of the issues they're dealing with are drugs, the lack of mental health supports, suicide, and they're also lacking essential infrastructure like clean running water in some cases, and also the lack of policing and all access roads to the community. So the chief today of St. Teresa Point says he agrees with everything that the KTC says, but his community at this point is not at the point of declaring a state of emergency.
There's so much that communities are facing, so hard to create a sense of hope for the youth as well. What about St. Teresa Point? What's its next step?
Yeah, well, the RCMP says that they are dedicated to tackling drug trafficking in these communities. Their Project Dog Pound has been working really hard to dismantle drug trafficking networks, which they say are smuggling drugs into small communities like St. Teresa Point. Today, the chief says that they have lost trust in the RCMP and they want an investigation into the death of these two young girls to be done by an outside police organization. And for Albert Shingoose, he says he wants to see more mental health supports and addiction services in the community, specifically for youth. He says the starting point of that is listening to what they need.
Stephanie Cram, thank you for this.
Thank you.
The Manitoba government promised 4 years ago to build 13 schools within a decade. Now it says it's ahead of schedule. Education Minister Wayne Owasco says they'll reach their goal 2 years earlier than expected, by 2027. He made the announcement at the newly opened Bison Run School. He says a high school being built nearby will form a new campus in South Winnipeg.
The south end of Winnipeg is one of the fastest growing communities in all of Manitoba. So this new campus will ensure that parents in the south end can expect high quality education and infrastructure for their children.
9 more schools will be built over the next 4 years using a public-private partnership, sometimes called a P3 funding model. Staff at Red River College Polytech and Assiniboine Community College have voted to give their bargaining committee the authority to take strike action if necessary. Now, that doesn't mean members will hit the picket line anytime soon. The union says the strike mandate sends a powerful message to the employer. The vote affects nearly 1,900 instructors, IT, and administrative staff. The Manitoba Government and General Employees Union President, Kyle Ross, says instructors at these colleges are among the lowest paid in the country. Communities south of Winnipeg are bracing for another spring flood while they're still cleaning up from the damage of last year. The province says we could get major flooding along the Red River. While southern Manitoba is no stranger to flooding, this forecast caught some people by surprise. CBC's Josh Crabb explains.
Heavy snowstorms in the northern United States late this winter have officials here preparing for all that moisture to come this way. The Manitoba government says there could be major flooding on the Red River this spring. That's not the news people in the RM of Montcalm wanted to hear. The municipality, which includes the town of Saint-Jean-Baptiste, still has about $15 million worth of repairs to do after last year's flood. Reeve Paul Gilmore says the damage was significant. He says fighting another flood could postpone those repairs. Gilmore says they have to face facts, but he wasn't expecting to be dealing with an overflowing river again this year.
We were a little surprised at the announcement because just a few weeks ago, we were told that there was no major risk, and now all of a sudden there is. So it is a surprise. Understandable though, because we're at the limit of the weather.
The RM of Montcalm isn't alone. Richop Mayor Chris Ewan says the municipality just south of Winnipeg is also dealing with repairs from 2022. He says it's still important to deal with the damage from last year, mainly to make sure farmers can get on their land to plant a crop. When it comes to dealing with the threat of this year's flood, Ewan says the community has good flood protection and emergency plans in place.
Almost every season we're going to see some sort of water going through the Red River, which is going to affect us, and it could be a little way, it could be a big way. So we're always preparing. We're looking at this much earlier than maybe the other municipalities are. But in terms of, has something in my thought process changed? Absolutely not. We're always making sure we're prepared. We're working with our emergency coordinating team, and we're working with our administration to ensure that the residents are just as prepared if need be.
Communities along the Red River have good flood protection in place to keep them safe from any major flooding. Under the worst case scenario, this year the flood would be similar to 2020. Highway 75 stayed open that year. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
So, dry weather and a slow melt are what we need to minimize flooding. Still, a slow and steady warm-up does lead to the same place, patio season. Today, the City of Winnipeg announced it is accepting registrations for its temporary patio program. It's also waiving administrative fees until the end of this month. The program allows businesses to operate temporary patios from April until the end of October. This program started in May 2020 to allow more businesses to get patios up and running at the start of the pandemic when we all needed to be outside to be in business. City staff are working on a report studying the feasibility of making seasonal temporary patio registration a long-term program. Well, they put the universe in university while also making space history. Students at the University of Manitoba are about to launch a satellite into space. But before it takes flight from SpaceX, CBC's Fiona Odlum got a look at the mighty cube.
This is Iris, a CubeSat. It's about 30 centimeters tall, weighs about 4 kilograms, and consists of 3 different cubes. In the cubes, you have the battery, controllers, camera. Along the side, you have the solar panel wings, and it's all designed to study one thing.
We're interested in how space rocks behave in space.
That's right, space rocks. They're taking rocks that have fallen to the Earth from space and bringing them back up to space to see how they react.
And we want to see how they change so that we can learn something about how space radiation changes the way that asteroids and other space rocks behave and how they look to us when we see them with a telescope.
Getting those rocks into the satellite was part of Ali Barari's master's thesis. He designed special pockets in the satellite to be able to photograph the rocks and to protect them from the intense vibrations during liftoff. Barari says the experience has been immeasurable.
We designed everything and we assembled everything together, even, the tiny fasteners or the epoxies. And we can say that we create this, and it feels so great, it feels like a father to a baby.
The Iris will be going up in June aboard Falcon 9 at SpaceX with 3 other satellites built by other provinces and territories. Then it's all up to the astronauts to get it airborne.
So our satellite actually launches to the space station. The astronauts take it out of the Dragon capsule. They make sure that it launched okay, and then they basically put it in a container, they open up the window, and they shoot it out the window.
The team hopes to get their first transmission from Iris sometime this summer when it floats over Winnipeg. And when that happens, it'll be a Manitoba first.
This will be the first ever satellite built by University of Manitoba students that is in space. I mean, what a day, right? I mean, I get goosebumps even just thinking about it.
Fiona Odlum, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Well, speaking of goosebumps, let's go to the hockey rink where our weather specialist Riley Laychuk is joining us live. You're in Headingley tonight, Riley. What's going on?
Yeah, we're just on the west edge of Winnipeg at the Hockey for All Center. This is the 33rd Manitoba Indigenous Minor Hockey Tournament. And the kids you see behind me, these are some of the youngest players we have in this tournament here this weekend. These ones behind me in the U7 group, we have kids all the way up to 18 years old playing here throughout the weekend. They're expecting some 4,000 players, family members, and supporters here in Headingley this weekend. So very loud, a very lively atmosphere here. A good weekend to be out and about doing some hockey. Let's take a look at your current conditions, and I'll tell you why. Right now we're at -2 in Winnipeg. Pressure is falling, and you know what? We've been under mainly sunny skies across most of Manitoba through most of the day today. High pressure definitely dominating really across the prairie provinces, Saskatchewan, Alberta, even into the territories. Seeing nothing but sunshine today. A little bit of snow. You can see some cloud in northern Manitoba. That is bringing a little bit of snow to parts of northern Manitoba. Today we'll see that tapering off, but we could see some more snow this weekend. I'll share the details on that as we look at Futurecast here. As we get through the night tonight, you can see we do have a little bit of clouds building. By the time we get to 8 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, we do see a little bit of cloud around southern Manitoba. I say we could see a hint of a flurry across the south tomorrow morning, bright and early. Nothing really in terms of accumulation, but we are expecting maybe a flurry here and there. Really the rest of Saturday looking nice, a little bit on the breezy side. We'll see winds gusting up to 40 through the afternoon tomorrow. Starting the day on Sunday, we are seeing a little bit more snow moving into northern Manitoba. We could pick up another couple centimeters through the weekend in areas like Shamattawa, God's Lake, even down to Barons River by the time we start Monday. So this is a look at our forecast snowfall potential. This takes us out 24 hours, and really we're expecting another centimeter here and there through a good swath of northern Manitoba, so don't be surprised if you see some snowflakes tonight. -10 in Winnipeg, a few clouds overnight tonight. We'll see the winds picking up by the time we get into the morning. A slim chance of a flurry early tomorrow, otherwise a mix of sun and cloud, and a bright sunny afternoon tomorrow. -3 our forecast high. That's still a little bit off normal for this time of the year, but still, you know, pretty decent for this time of the year. And our Long range as well, looking at nothing but sunshine. Still a little bit below normal. Normal for this time of the year at +2, so we'll be at -9 to start the next work week. So nice sunny weekend and a very fun weekend ahead here at the Hockey for Life Center. I'll have more on what's going on here throughout the weekend coming up later in the show, Janet.
Oh, we look forward to that. Thanks so much, Riley.
No worries.
Well, from hockey dreams being built on the ice right now to business dreams. You start a home business right in your house, and it grows until you have a store on Main Street. When we first met this couple from Steinbach, Kara and Curtis Nordstrom, it was about 4 years ago, and they were building puppets out of their home. Well, that dream has turned into a thriving business, which also includes international sales. The puppets they build look just like Muppets. They're beautiful. The Nordstrom's business grew so much, they opened a store earlier this month in Steinbach. CBC's Marjorie Dowhouse and our videographer Jason Empson recently visited Nordstrom Creations.
I'm Kara Nordstrom, and I am a creator at Nordstrom Creations.
I'm Curtis Nordstrom, and this is Nordstrom Creations. We started in a basement suite. We were renting a basement suite, and we just made puppets out of there. And then we moved into a different home, and we were just making it out of like our living room. Actually, our master bedroom was actually our puppet factory for quite a few years.
Since you started, how has everything been going with Nordstrom?
It's been going very, very good. We've been doing this for about 7 years, but this is the first time that we're opening up a store. So we are moving from our house to a location.
Did you ever imagine that you would get to this point in your business where you're moving out of your house, you're in a store location?
No, I would say definitely not 7 years ago when we first started. These expectations, you set them realistic at the beginning, right? And I always told Kara, like, even if you don't make any money from puppets, we're gonna fill the house with them. So that was always our ambition, was just the joy of making them and stuff like that. We didn't know a month ago we were gonna have a storefront. It might be small, it's only like 9 by 14, but it's a start, right, in a good direction. So we took a break for maternity leave when we had our child, so we've been on a break for about 7 months. So the goal now will be building up a bunch of the puppets we have. We bought so much fabric over the years, we literally have 500 puppets in process right now.
We have a lot of support online right now, especially in Steinbach, actually. So we do have a lot of support from Steinbach already. We haven't publicly announced that our store is open, but I guess now we have. So I guess we'll see if people want to come in. Now we're going to be open for if people want to do lookalikes, like in person. I can make a lookalike right in front of them.
It's my doppelganger.
Well, for us, part of our recognition in Steinbach is we'll be at the mall or somewhere and people will be like, I named a puppet you created. We do a Name That Puppet on our Facebook page, and so people will name their names. We have no idea who this person is. And they're like, you make puppets, and they recognize us, and it's a lot of fun. So we're looking forward to maybe some of those people coming down here and checking out our puppets in person.
Hey man. Theodore is French. Even though I don't speak French, Theodore is French. Aggie came from our little boy. So at 3 months old, he just kept saying Aggie, Aggie, Aggie all day long, and we were like, maybe we should make a puppet out of Aggie. You know, like we need to make an Aggie puppet. I voice this character. He reads books online to kids. Yeah, you know, I have so much to say. I have books to read for all the kids. I just love everyone.
Why do you think that people of all ages love the puppets so much? I mean, they're absolutely adorable, so it's easy to see what the appeal is.
Yeah, I think people have this built-in nostalgia, having grown up with like Sesame Street or Muppets or Fraggle Rock, and they have this built-in nostalgia for puppets. So it doesn't matter really what puppet they see, but they light up as soon as they know it's a puppet.
Great story. Now, in international news, U.S. President Joe Biden spent a day in our country visiting Ottawa, the second and last day of his visit. That story is coming up. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. U.S. President Joe Biden spent a very busy day in Ottawa. His schedule packed with meetings, photo ops, and an address to Parliament, meant to underscore the importance of his trip. Ashley Burke has this report now from Ottawa.
A long overdue visit between two friends.
Here we are.
U.S. President Joe Biden's first official trip to Canada, coming halfway through his first term.
And I tell other world leaders I meet with when they ask about the geopolitical circumstances of the world, I said, we're lucky. We have Canada.
Trudeau escorting Biden to meet the leaders of the opposition.
Leader of His Majesty's loyal opposition.
Loyal opposition.
Absolutely. We believe that opposition is an act of loyalty in our system.
We do too. We do too, unfortunately.
The House of Commons packed for the president's address.
No more reliable ally. No more steady friend. And today I say to you and to all the people of Canada that you will always, always be able to count on the United States of America. I guarantee it.
Trudeau, who is at the center of a controversy over his handling of China's election meddling attempts, said it's time to stand up to authoritarian threats.
This is not a moment to compromise on our values. This is a moment to double down.
Then pointed to the crowd.
Two men who are here with us today, Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor.
A standing ovation for two Canadians arbitrarily detained in Chinese prisons that both countries helped free.
They're safely back to their families.
A day of talks also led to what both countries are claiming as wins. Canada got the U.S. to agree to close a loophole starting at midnight. It prevented Canadian law enforcement at irregular border crossings from turning back asylum seekers, like at Roxham Road. In return, Canada committed that it would upgrade its fighter jet bases, speed up modernizing the North American air defense, and provide $100 million for equipment and support for Haiti's national police. Both Canada and the U.S. acknowledge that there's a serious long-term challenge China poses to international order. In a statement, both countries said they are committed to continuing working together to counter foreign interference. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
While the president worked through his busy schedule, U.S. First Lady Jill Biden got a first-hand glimpse at a favorite sport here in Manitoba. She visited a curling rink with the Prime Minister's wife, Sophie Gregoire. They met with young athletes in Ottawa and talked to them about issues close to both their hearts. Olivia Stefanovich has more.
Good morning. Good morning.
A first for a First Lady. United by their passion for sports, Sophie Gregoire Trudeau took Jill Biden to get a lesson in a Canadian classic.
Curling is not just an activity, it's a way of being. Nice to meet you all. Nice to see you, I'm Jill.
Then sat down with young athletes to promote physical health as a way to improve mental health.
I find that really, sport is my home.
16-year-old Danielle Kova shared how track and field helps him cope with the pressures of teenage life.
I love that line that you said, that sport is my home.
I've learned a lot about myself through running, my limits, everything that I can do.
I would say you have to follow through with a passion.
While 15-year-old gymnast Zoe Babb advocated for the need to break down barriers.
If we would have more sports programs funded by the government, it would let a lot of kids access sports. And I also believe, like I said, recreational programs could be helpful because sometimes competitive programs are just a lot of stress.
Sports creates that balance in your life.
But for some, that balance was thrown off in the pandemic.
Rinks were closed, so we didn't really get to perform our sports, and it was really just not great.
16-year-old Creed Siriamusi told them he couldn't play hockey for 2 years.
They knew that it wasn't a great thing for us, for kids our age, because we were still young, and yeah, it affected us a lot.
I think that our mental health really relies on the fact that we need each other to connect.
And it's that connection that both women have made as mental health advocates, helping youth navigate turbulent times that have no borders. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
One of Canada's largest retailers says it will change its prices following a CBC Marketplace investigation. The investigation found that painkillers marketed to women to relieve menstrual cramps were priced higher than other comparable painkillers with the same ingredients. As Chelsea Agro reports, rather as Charlesy Agro reports, the so-called pink tax goes much farther than just that.
Coffee. Coffee. Did you take a look at the price? $2.50 for men and $3 for women.
Why is it so expensive for women?
Well, women pay more for lots of stuff.
I know, that's for sure.
At this coffee shop, the same drink has 2 different prices. And customers aren't impressed with the point this social experiment is trying to make.
We have to pay more. I don't like this vibe. What do you think about the fact that you have to pay more for some things than men? It's outrageous.
But marketing professor Alivarescu says women continue to pay more than men for lots of products.
If they can sell the same item virtually for 2 different segments and make the price higher for one, then they increase their bottom line.
It's called the pink tax. Recent data from one Canadian company found, on average, women pay over 50% more for deodorant and body wash marketed to them compared to similar products marketed to men.
The price differences tend to be rather small. Over the year and over the course of a consumer's lifetime, they add up.
Marketplace found several examples of retailers selling products to women and girls at higher prices than products marketed as gender neutral or to men and boys, including these painkillers, both identical in size and active ingredients, but at 2 different prices.
$6.99, 24 caplets. What do you got over there?
24 caplets, $7.49. In emails to Marketplace, Loblaw, the parent company of Shoppers Drug Mart, where those products were purchased, said it will drop the prices of the menstrual pills to align them with the non-gendered version, in light of its commitment to women's health.
What do you guys think, though? Should we be paying more than men?
If anything, less, because we get paid less, right? It's tiring.
Yeah.
To be a woman.
Agreed. And it's expensive, isn't
it?
Yeah.
Charles Ciagro, CBC News, Toronto.
Seniors who speak an Indigenous language could soon have better vision care, thanks to a pair of clear-thinking doctors in Montreal. Valeria Cori-Minocchio tells us about an innovative technique meant to improve the accuracy of eye exams.
Yi, bi, yi, ki. No, I can't see the other small ones.
Eva Hoperqualuk-Lepage had the chance to do a different eye test during her appointment today, one in her language, Inuktitut.
I was proud of that, yeah. I was proud to see my own language being used like that. It's going to be beneficial to the Inuit who don't speak English.
After their work in Puvernatuck, this ophthalmologist and medical school graduate noticed many patients read only or mostly Inuktitut, making the standard Latin alphabet chart for an eye exam a challenge.
So if we can remove that initial barrier, we can build trust and then deliver care in a more optimal fashion.
Dr. El Haddad and Dr. Nishant Bambra worked together to develop this chart. It can be used in Inuktitut, Cree, and Ojibwe.
Well, we picked 7 letters that were universal across these languages for the goal of reaching as many patients as possible. And our numbers show that 85% of approximately the 260,000 Indigenous Canadians who speak an Indigenous language should be able to read the alphabet that we selected.
The duo tested 20 patients who read both Inuktitut and English. Most received an equal or better score using the new chart.
It's just not only Inuit who will need to read, but whoever testing them will have to know the letters.
To help with that, there's this sheet to instruct the tester on how each character will sound.
Eventually, like any language, people will learn. People will learn by repetition, and it's going to become second nature to.
The charts are available in all 14 villages in Nunavik and online for free. There are plans to distribute them to more Indigenous communities too. Valeria Cori-Minocchio, CBC News, Montreal.
Such a simple idea, but it just seems brilliant, doesn't it? Why didn't we think about that sooner? King Charles III's had a planned visit to France next week. Well, that's become a casualty of the chaos and pension protests. The King and Camilla, the Queen consort, were scheduled to arrive in France Monday for a 3-day visit, but today French President Emmanuel Macron said the trip is postponed until a more favorable time. The cancellation comes after French unions called for another day of national protests against pension reforms on Tuesday. Macron was scheduled to host a formal dinner for the royal visitors at the Palace of Versailles, something critics compared to Marie Antoinette feasting while Paris was in revolt. Rental fraud scams are on the rise. Coming up, a detective walks us through the problem. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. We're hearing more and more these days about scams. They seem to be happening everywhere. And a growing number of Canadians are now being victimized by something called rental fraud. One of those people is warning potential renters to be on guard and reminding them it could happen to anyone, and he knows. He's a former detective in the Financial Crimes Unit of the Vancouver Police Department. CBC's Angela Stewart has more.
It really feels like you've had an intruder in your house.
Paul McNamara couldn't believe it when he learned his new Westminster home was being shown on a rental site. CBC News is not showing McNamara's face as he now works undercover.
When you see your personal space advertised without your permission and knowing that it's being used in a scam is not a comfortable feeling.
The listing featured 30 photos of his 3-bedroom, 4,000 square foot heritage house, all to rent for $2,000 a month. He asked Rentals.ca to take the listing down and filed reports with the US Police and the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. When he felt no one was investigating, he emailed the alleged scammer himself.
The email was from a Reverend Benjamin William. Some long explanation as to why he can't show me the house. He's in California. A relative or somebody is sick with COVID.
In text, the alleged scammer asked for a $1,500 deposit via e-transfer. The CBC contacted the email address that McNamara was communicating with, and a person wrote back saying, "I'm not in the state. For interview, you can only drive by the home." The person emailed again, asking the CBC if they'd like more details or pictures of the home. Finally, 2 days after McNamara made the report, Rentals.ca took the ad down.
You think about over the weekend when he had my house listed for rent, there could be anywhere from 5 to 10 victims looking for a house.
In an email, Paul Dannison of Rentals.ca says, "We employ a full-time fraud analyst and use AI to detect scams." Dannison says he can't share how potential landlords are vetted because that information could be used in new scams.
There are more and more people that are coming forward saying that they've been victimized.
In 2022, the Vancouver-based rental platform Live.Rent reported that suspicious listings have nearly tripled from the year before. Kotak says vetting potential landlords isn't rocket science.
Making sure that they do a video call with the potential renter so they can verify that is the exact property that's being listed.
And he urges potential renters to do their homework.
Make sure you visit the property. Make sure that you do a walkthrough of the property. Never e-transfer any money.
New Westminster Police say they have contacted the rentals website and hope they and others understand the need to respond and remove fake ads. Angela Stewart, CBC News, Vancouver.
For 33 years, the Manitoba Indigenous Cultural Education Centre has been holding its annual hockey tournament, and this year, our weather specialist Riley Laychuk is lucky enough to be there. Good hockey there, Riley?
Yeah, so we've moved from where we were last time. We had the little kids across at the other arena last time. Now we've got some female hockey players here on one of the other ice surfaces here at the Hockey for All Center. This tournament is going on all weekend, and we'll talk to one of the organizers coming up a little bit later in the program. Let's take a look at our weather across the country, and it's been fairly stable weather-wise across most of the prairie provinces. -2 in Winnipeg and Regina right now, -1 in Calgary, seeing a little bit of snow along the foothills and a little bit wet on the west coast. 9 degrees this hour in Vancouver. A little bit warmer to the south, Toronto at +2, also +2 in Montreal, and parts of the Maritimes, Cape Breton, PEI, as well as Newfoundland, expecting snow this weekend, -3 at the moment in St. John's, Newfoundland. Closer to home, we are seeing temperatures close to the freezing mark around much of the capital region anyway. -1 in Elie and St. Laurent, -1 in Selkirk as well. It's 0 at the Forks in downtown Winnipeg, and looking a little bit wider to the west, -1s along the western edge of the province. Dauphin, Brandon, -2 in Swan River, and northern Manitoba fairly comfortable as well for this time of the year. We're seeing some snow in Thompson, Gillam, seeing a little bit of a flurry activity this weekend. So there's the cloud there in northern Manitoba. That's what's bringing some of the snow to parts of the province. minus 11s and 12s across parts of northwestern Ontario tonight. Minus 10s, minus 9s. Mainly clear skies through southern Manitoba. We could see some clouds and maybe a flurry first thing in the morning tomorrow, and a little bit colder the further west you go. Minus 16 in Dauphin, minus 18 in Swan River, and a little bit colder to the north. We're expecting some of that snowfall through the Gillam and Island Lake region through the night tonight, tapering off before we see some more snow into Sunday. Minus 9 in Island Lake for tomorrow. The southern part of the province still a little bit below normal for this time of the year, but mainly sunny skies. Minus 4 in Brandon, minus 6 in Portage la Prairie, as well as in Morden Winkler. In Winnipeg tomorrow, minus 3. That's fairly safe bet for much of southeastern Manitoba, and temperatures hovering around the freezing mark for northwestern Ontario. 0 in Red Lake tomorrow, and we could see a little bit more cloud cover out into northwestern Ontario. I'll be back from here at the Hockey for Life Centre in just a little bit, Janet.
Thanks so much, Riley.
No worries.
A passion for comic books and superheroes led two Alberta artists to create a stunning digital experience. The pair dreamed up a world where Indigenous superheroes saved the planet. That dream became a physical reality when other artists, animators, and musicians got on board and delivered the Sacred Defenders of the Universe to Calgary's Science Centre.
It's not like anything that's been shown before. You're not sitting in a seat, you don't have the popcorn in your hand, you're immersed into this whole beautiful show.
We wanted to make it into a comic book, something entertaining that has some Indigenous values and traditions and important messages about environment and conflict of the ego and humility we have inside of all of us.
When Justin and I first created this story and when we had the storyline going, we were going to annihilate ego and have everybody living in harmonious peace. But during the processes, the elders were the one that reached out to us and explained to us that ego is very important, and especially as we get older and as we're teenagers, if we hold our breath against our friends, it's ego teaching us how to do that. But there comes to a point where you will have to find balance with ego and put it in check.
That conflict of ego and humility is inside of us, and it became the origin story for our characters to come to life. And that's where the four characters introduce themselves.
Back in the day, before there was any technology in North America, the only technology that we had was to listen, and to listen to the elders and listen to the wind, listen to the animals in the woods, maybe warning us for something coming up. Nowadays, it's just all blocked by distraction.
We created the series Sacred Defenders of the Universe starting in 2018 and been developing the stories for a few years. And when Telespark Science Centre reached out to us, this production was created in less than a year, which is really an incredible achievement to go from concept to final product with something at this scale.
I think everybody is going to benefit from this. I mean, the kids will be overwhelmed just chasing little fish and the birds that we see on the ground. Everybody's going to connect to this in one way or another, I'm sure.
So beautiful. Let's hope that comes on tour to a community near you. This is a live look at the Scotiabank Hockey for All Centre on the west edge of Winnipeg. The Manitoba Indigenous Cultural Education Centre's annual hockey tournament, 33rd annual, is underway. We're going to learn more about that after the break. Okay, time to learn more about this big hockey tournament that has kids from all over the province and their families gathered in Winnipeg. Riley Laychuk, take it away.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, this is the 33rd year that this hockey tournament has happened here, and really there are people from all over the province here. For more, I've got Anna Paranto from the Manitoba Indigenous Cultural Education Centre here for more. So tell me, what's happening here this weekend?
So we're hosting our 33rd annual hockey tournament. We have 58 teams from all across Manitoba. It's an all-Indigenous minor hockey tournament. And we're just excited to have everybody here. It's been a long time since we have had our tournament. So it was canceled, obviously, in 2020, 2 weeks before our tournament. So I think everybody's really excited to be here.
I was going to say, you know, seeing the halls filled with people, the rinks, the stands, what's that like?
It's amazing. I think exciting. It's good to see everybody back here again. I think what we've heard from our teams and our players, the coaches, everybody is excited to get back to this tournament. They look forward to this tournament every year. So to have it back again after an 3-year absence has been amazing.
What can people expect, I guess, when they come down?
So they can expect a lot of great hockey, amazing hockey. We have some of the best Indigenous hockey players here at the tournament. We have silent auction. We have grand prizes, 50-50, break opens. Tomorrow we'll have some entertainment. We have some square dancers in the afternoon, face painters, a photo booth if people want to come and take photos. CBC will be here tomorrow with their photo booth, so we'll have that here.
So it sounds like a fairly lively weekend.
Oh yeah, it's very family oriented, definitely fun for everybody. So.
How much work goes into organizing and getting this ready every year?
A lot. So myself and my coworker are the main organizers, but we have a lot of help from our staff. We have a staff of 10. So we start usually really six months out, but I mean really all year, but really the real work starts about 6 months out, and then for the last month or so, it's full time every day. So,
I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, but like, where's the furthest that a team has come from this year?
Well, Kivalliq. We have Kivalliq and Arviat teams here this year. Kivalliq has 3 teams, and then Arviat has 2 teams. So they fly in actually So they fly in from Nunavut, and they're here. Yeah.
Wow. So a family event, lots of hockey happening here. Thank you so much for telling us about it, Anna.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, as I mentioned, this continues through the weekend here at the Hockey for Life Center. I'll be back one more time. I'll have your 7-day forecast when we come back. Well, we're back here at the Hockey for Life Center on the edge of Winnipeg. We're going to take a look at your 7-day forecast now, and really, I'm going to sound like a broken record because there's really not a lot to talk about other than sunshine over the next 7 days. A little breezy tomorrow. Like I said, we could see that hint of a flurry early in the morning, -3 our forecast high, -4 for Sunday. Then we take a bit of a dive in terms of temperatures, down to -9 for Monday and Tuesday. Still bright sunshine, but you know, our normal for this time of the year is +2, so we are a little bit below seasonal. Even heading into the end of next week, we're looking at highs of -3 for Thursday and Friday. So Janet, lots of excitement happening here at the Hockey for Life Center all throughout the weekend here with this Manitoba Indigenous Minor Hockey Tournament, the 33rd year they've had it, and they're expecting thousands of people out here all weekend.
Well done, Riley. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, and of course, Riley will be back tonight at 11. Some of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers geared up recently and headed to northern Manitoba to take a stand against bullying and give youth a chance to try football. The tour included stops in 3 northern First Nations as part of the CFL's Try Football initiative. Here's your Daily Lift.
Go. Catch back, catch back.
I was really excited. I was just like hyped up all morning. It's like, oh my gosh, the Blue Bombers are coming.
One-time Grey Cup champion, Tanner Chadwell.
They're just so talkative and so curious and full of life, and you know they're very good at like everything they were showing me too. It was very refreshing, and I know we all felt extremely welcomed by the community. We all would have stayed longer if it was in the itineraries.
I would just throw like a ball around with no form at all, but then when they came here and showed me how a form is and all that, and I just felt more motivated and wanted to do it more.
It shows a sportsmanship and teamwork and working together. They gave me a football, actually. I'm waiting for it to clear up some snow, and I'm gonna go out and play some football.
These kids have a lot of goods going for them in athletics, and they're very smart. I think it was a very eye-opening experience for them, and they were able to learn a lot just like we were.
Amazing. So great to see those players getting out there and interacting with kids. Thank you for being with us tonight. I hope you have a fabulous weekend. If you find yourself free on Sunday night, I will be at Crescent Fort Rouge United Church emceeing the big Cranky Fest concert. So maybe I'll see you there. See you Monday.